There we go. I forgot to turn the mic back on, especially since I got a new countdown screen, as y'all just saw. So that means the way I was doing it before doesn't automatically mute me like it used to. But now I'm back after a few plus week long absence from doing the show. This is your host from kind of between the coast, come to you live from the Mile Highland City. This is Andrew Rochford, live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Please like the stream first and foremost, then share it to places familiar, unfamiliar, and somewhere in between. Then if you're on the Twitch end of things, please click that follow button. And there's a lot that's happened over the past few weeks when I was gone. I'll just quickly give you the quick summary of why I didn't go live in all that time, since I believe the last time you all saw me was on the Uncle Warren special extra Bula Halloween stream. So shout out to Uncle Warren for that guest appearance right there. Hey there, Ellie. Good to see you've made it in. First here. But, I mean, it was it was a rough time for me. Even though I've been in therapy for a few months, there's still moments where you get into like a rough type of depression, and that's what happened for like at least a good 3 weeks of when I was gone. Hey there, Kelly. I saw that you and WCSN were both checking in on me while I was gone. Thanks so much for that. Uncle Warren and Indy left as well. So yeah, that was then I shortly lost my job a few days into that, so that made things a bit worse, but new job now, so now it's things are falling back into place for me as I get into this whole like consistent inconsistent routine that I have with doing this show. So there's that. So there's a lot of stuff that I know that I've missed over my time of being gone. Hey, WCSN. Thanks. Yes, I am back to being more like myself. So, as I said, this is a viewer's choice stream. So, if UWCSN, Kelly, and Ellie, quite a rhyme, or whoever else shows up, if there's a story that y'all would like to see me cover that I missed since late October, please throw out some suggestions. Oh, what happened to the used to scare Uncle Warren? Okay. I had to change my setup a bit because I used to have a TV on this rolling cart here, but then my TV stopped working, and for a while I used to have it where it was like a third of the screen was really dark, but then one day it just really stopped working altogether. So then I had a few days where that old TV was really only useful to play audio to support other fellow content creators, but not be able to see anything. As you can see now, I had to move my desk around, and Now I get to stare at the back of my TV while I do live streams. Unlike how my setup was before when I was able to look at my TV like just a couple of feet away from me as I was doing streams. So it'll be a lot uh, more listening reliant. So sorry about that. Uh, Mike got unplugged for a moment. Hola, Mariella. Uh, Hopefully you have a very safe flight into San Juan. So for now, until other people start to suggest stuff for me to cover, I'm gonna start off with Brittney Griner, something that I've tried to cover pretty closely on the channel. And what we saw yesterday in the news was the fact that she's finally going to be on her way home. So there's a lot of layers of discourse to this now that we learned about uh, how that was achieved. But a lot of the things that I've said over this time, I still believe hold to be very true. So let's just try to get a wide range of views through the discourse of this. So let's do a quick refresh. And see, RBN did a stream yesterday. Nick and Compton J talked a bit more about it. Let's see what this Brian Tyler Cohen guy says. He's a pretty big shitlib. Normally doesn't like say anything like very uh, targeting in a way that uh, gets a ton of attention. So he doesn't stand out as much. But this is Marine Trevor Reed. Who got Biden released from Russia. His release was delayed by Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene. He said Trump failed to fight for his release, and Republicans are big fans of Russians are big fans of MAGA. Remember this when you see GOP outrage over Brittney Griner. So first off, before addressing any of that, how many of you believe from the first moments that the Biden administration said that they were working on getting Brittney Griner free from Russia? How many of those times do you actually believe they were taking any action? Because I feel like there were quite a few times where they were just putting out a statement just to make you feel like they were actually trying to do anything. When the reality is, I believe they were sitting on their hands and didn't really care all that much about addressing that situation. If anything, I think they were so zeroed in on the whole uh, proxy war coalescing with the other NATO countries to try to strengthen Ukraine due to their whole Putin derangement. And even though you're going to see a lot of like conservative outrage following this, now that we know that he was in the Victor bout prisoner swap, it'll be important to point out why the kind of inconsistent outrage that conservatives have when it comes to this. First off, because what is the purpose of our government? To serve as useful facilitators to increase military weaponry and spending. We do not have anyone in Congress right now who is doing their part to consistently stand up against war, uh, making real, taking a real strong stance, drawing a line in the sand, saying no more military industrial complex funding. It's continuously increasing. And when we point to someone like Bernie Sanders, who only did like this essentially performative vote to try to get down by 5% one time. And we know that Bernie Sanders is a useful idiot to go along with the shitty U.S. foreign policy positions. And if anyone requests for me to go more into like some recent Bernie Sanders stuff, I'll be glad to get into that. And good. I'm sure this was a good stream that Richard Medhurst did earlier today, as he had two guests who were swapped out by Americans. I didn't get to watch much of it yet. I wish I had a bit more time earlier this morning. But there's another angle to this that I feel liberals often ignore, but let's just play this quick video of Griner back on a plane.
I'm good. What's your mood? Happy. Well, are you ready for one flight? Yes. Yeah. Good. Ну, вы знаете, куда вы летите?
Do you know where I'm heading to?
No.
No?
No. Вы летите домой.
You fly back home
To the U.S.
to the US.
Да, конечно. Так что все будет нормально.
Everything will be fine.
I'm good. What's your mood?
Happy.
Well, are you ready for one flight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, as you can see from that, she doesn't really know what's going on. It could be, her getting. She's still not completely aware of where she's going. So that was just a quick little clip to share. And I honestly don't get too much into the whole good military, bad military member type stuff as this former Senate candidate or House or Senate candidate Richard Ojeda got into. Brittney Griner is a two-time Olympic gold medalist, and Paul Whelan was kicked out of the Marines for theft. Let that sink in. I did not really look very deeply into that part because for me it's like whether you're a good member of the military or not, you're really still carrying out the missions of the rich and powerful of extracting assets and goods from other countries or trying to do the whole overtaking of other countries who are certainly more on the way to socialism or communism than we are. And that's really just what it comes down to. And think about it, when it comes to Russia, why do you think they want to take down Putin? It's because they see him as a threat of a. They see Russia and China as like similar threats because the United States only wants to be the only powerful bully that exists in the world. And let's address this quick tweet from Barrington Martin II. It's also really telling. People made this Brittney Griner sitch about identity more than nationality. More people are happy that she's a black lesbian than she is American. And that, my friends, is why our country is in shambles. And that is someone that's very much off track when it comes to why our country is shambles. Do you not care about all the funding, the billions and billions of dollars that the United States continues to hand over to Ukraine? How this government has had chances to address inflation much in a similar way that Mexico did. For example, trying to keep gas. They actually subsidized gas so they could bring the price down $1 per gallon. And I think they nationalized lithium there too. So that's a couple examples. They could have subsidized a lot of things that uh, poor working class families and could have had some relief on their wallets whenever they go to a grocery store. But instead, it's more like the part of Venezuela that they don't tell you about, for example, where the capitalist behavior is what causes certain products to skyrocket in grocery stores. It's not the fact that they're quote unquote socialist communist. It because they actually do have Max Blumenthal a few years back actually went into some regular Venezuelan grocery store to show you that it was a pretty well stocked place. It's not like your typical Walmart where you walk in and you look through like see half to near empty shelves of like Gatorade and milk coolers and the deli cases all looking very sparsely filled. That's that's just not how it looked there. Ah, yes, WCSN. How do you get your VA benefits from inside Russia? What was Whelan doing in Russia? Yes, those are some very good questions to be asked. But this, once again, is someone who is ignoring the whole part of the story about it's not identity politics is why our country's going downhill. It's because we have a bunch of corrupt fucking crooks in charge of our whole system, and they're using it to enrich the 1%, continuously increase more and more their war racket. Oh, yeah, that's another good thing to point out real quick is the whole money laundering scheme that was revealed with the FTX uh, at least a couple weeks ago. Yes, so Kelly with another thing that she brought, I remember her bringing up on a previous stream too. So we don't have socialism, but once, quote, inflation is under control and the proxy war is over, we will still be paying $8 for a head of lettuce. Crisis capitalism. And that right there is why certain things cost a lot in Venezuela is because of like capitalist just jacking up the price like that. But if you think that the fact that you're mad because people do not have an identity with being American first is the biggest problem with this country, then you're so deeply unserious and far, far off track as to what the real problems are, because America will never be a country of a monolithic identity. And even countries that you think are more monolithic in terms of like race and ethnicity, they still also have a bit more like diversity than you may think. Oh, this cringe from Maxine Waters. Mr. President, you continue to work presidential magic. Thank you for securing the release of Brittney Griner. You have certainly lived up to your promises. There is nothing magical about what President Biden has done so far. If anything, it's deeply tragic what has gone on as we are getting close to 2 full years, halfway through this term from Joe Biden. And there is nothing that you could really say other than the fact that if there is anything that is more magical, if I have to even concede to that, it's the fact that how effortlessly that progressives, even more so than your standard establishment Democrats like Waters here, are some of the loudest advocates and twist and contort themselves like actual magicians like a David Blaine in defense of what Biden has done so far. While you've got other people who don't even make that anywhere near the same type of effort, who are far more ideologically closer to Biden, like a Joe Manchin or the Kristen Cinema, who had just switched to independent. Hey, Yipper, what's up? Oh, yes. It is Brittney, Kamala Harris, having a little tear of joy. Let's read this tweet since Yipper brought it up. Kamala Harris tearing up, knowing damn well she sent people to prison for longer than 9 years, less weed than Brittney Griner had in Russia. And that's another thing that is happening, is the fact that you've got people like Kamala Harris. They want you to get distracted from the fact that bringing Brittney Griner home after more than 9 months of being held back in Russia and detained, and eventually spending several of those in Russian prison, is noble, very, very noble effort. But when the reality is, this just exposes how much of frauds they are, because they made no real effort to free drug offenders from prison. We remember that whole BS executive order that really didn't actually free anyone because most of the people who would be affected by it were already free to begin with. So it does lead to be a distraction, because in the way of that, being that there are so many other black and brown people who have been held in prison for years and years, many of those who were not helped whatsoever by that empty handed executive order that Biden had back in, I believe, late September. See how pointless that was? And this is what you get when you have a racist and a cop running your country. See, is there anything else other than uh, conservatives doing the whole fear mongering over this Victor Bout guy, when even though they're suddenly outraged on someone like, even though they no longer, some of them no longer like a John McCain type, but overall, they're for the very same things in terms of unchallenged increasing of the military industrial complex. Oh yeah, and that's where some of the inspiration of conservatives being upset about is because Griner does not. There's a lot of things about America that she doesn't like, and it brings out the right's nationalism in a big way, because they melt down over the fact that they do not like how people do not accept the country as is. Is there anything else that's worth getting into? Let's just take a quick listen to Mark Lamont Hill.
Why weren't you upset? I want to have a word with all of you who are upset that Brittney Griner was released. I want you to ask yourself, why? Why weren't you upset that she had to be in Russia in the first place? Because WNBA players are paid so little that they have to do 2 jobs, 2 seasons, in 2 continents just to make a living. I want you to ask yourself why you're saying, well, she committed the crime, she should do the time. She had a small amount of a substance and she was charged like an international drug smuggler. How are you okay with that? Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why suddenly y'all are so pro-incarceration when you wear t-shirts and sweatshirts saying free my cousin and free my brother who you know committed a crime. When you walk around saying free this rapper and free that rapper who admitted they did a crime, and you all okay with them coming home. And I am too, because I don't support prisons. But somehow when it comes to this black girl, you're all so carceral. Ask yourself why you're so outraged that this man is Victor Bout is coming home, when in fact he was going to come home anyway. He had a 25-year sentence. He'd served a lot of it. He was going to be home anyway. And yet suddenly some of you who have never witnessed a foreign policy trade before, who have never seen a prisoner exchange in your life, are now acting like this is just the worst thing you could imagine for human history. Ask yourself why. And maybe, just maybe, the answer is not because you're outraged at a foreign policy blunder, not because you're outraged at what happened between Russia. Maybe it's the fact that this is a black girl, a black woman, a lesbian, an athlete, a star. Maybe something about her being free doesn't sit well with you. At least something to ponder.
A lot of those were pretty good points by Mark Lamont Hill, by the way. For those of you who don't remember, he was fired from CNN because he refused to, because of the whole not falling in line with the whole anti-Semitic narrative, I should say, that is controlling our corporate media apparatus. And he had a pro-Palestine segment that went into that. Then they called him anti-Semitic for that, and that's what led to his firing. And we saw a lot of layers of that repeat with this whole Kyrie Irving saga that happened over the past few weeks. That still spilled into November, and how it's very much BS how black people do get blamed for the rise of anti-Semitism in the United States. And that's what the whole Kyrie Irving situation allowed, along with Ye. It gave them an opportunity to push that some more. But back to this point here. Very good points that if you thought 9 months was a long time for 9+ months was a long time for Brittney Griner, it probably would have been less if Brittney Griner was not a black lesbian woman. But we know that they were sitting on their hands a lot. And also didn't help that when you're actually like supporting Russia's current enemy in war, yeah, that's not exactly going to make it easier to bring someone home sooner. And comparatively so. I mean, this is one of those right-wing sports reactionary and Clay Travis. I mean, Brittney Griner broke Russian law and was arrested and convicted for it. But then we gave an international terrorist to get her back. If this isn't privilege, I don't know what is. Maybe we should have left her in Russia so she would be safer, MSNBC. Once again, missing the point how our whole goddamn Congress are international terrorists with the way that they have all these wars going on. They don't need to be on the ground to do them. They can just engage in drone strikes. That's where the United States is the real international terrorist. And they've got far more of a system in place with way more people supporting it. That doesn't mean that another country could not eventually reach that point. But right now, it's the United States by and far. And this is why we want as anti-war citizens of the United States, that we want them to not be involved in anyone else's conflicts. Because if they were not involved in this from the get-go, we would see some different... we would be talking about this somewhat differently, at least. But because we have to talk about it so much from the angle of our point of view of being the biggest supporter of Ukraine, then yes, we are going to be far more antagonistic towards them. And meanwhile, Biden gave another $40 billion to Ukraine, and Zelensky is timed Man of the Year. It's a truly bizarre world. Don't get me started on that. The whole Times Man of the Year. I think I could do a quick little thing on that in a moment, just to show you how terrible that was. But the thing is, this isn't. This whole fear mongering thing just doesn't make sense. But people like Clay Travis are going to continue to vote to reinforce the same system, and that even if some of their followings are more MAGA, their maggots that they put into Congress are still going to be very complicit to the U.S. war machine. And just because Marjorie Taylor Greene currently has her moments where she outflanks the left, specifically on being allowed to be one of the few voices to oppose Russia and sending more funding to Ukraine. Another example is her being allowed to, well, she was also one of the only ones to make a statement in favor of Julian Assange. And I believe she also had a better statement recently with the whole railroad strike. And this is another thing that, let's just address this quick point from the Rep Dan Crenshaw. Americans deserve to know why Biden traded one of the most dangerous Russian arms dealers for Brittney Griner, while leaving behind military veteran Paul Whelan. America should be negotiating from a place of strength, not weakness. And this is definitely comes from the mantra of oh, the United States can never be weak ever, and how I'm sure this type of line of thinking was also someone who was very upset at the way that Biden took troops away from Afghanistan. But sure, progressives keep talking about how Biden ended a war when sanctions are starving well over 20 million people in Afghanistan. But that's just the fact that, lastly, just think about a situation where Brittney Griner doesn't have to play a second or a third season of basketball to be able to make enough of a salary to stay in the United States year round. A lot of WNBA players have to play their whole second, third season type thing in Russia, Puerto Rico, because many of those countries actually pay better when you look at it from a US dollar standpoint. So this is why a thing like that happened. We all know if Brittney got in trouble for illegally taking hash oil into Russia, what the heck was Paul doing over there? I don't care if he was a veteran or not. Yeah, that's my point exactly, because there's a lot of people out there who are still afraid to be critical of the military for what they do, and it's okay to be critical of the military. It's a complicated situation. We know that a lot of people do come back from the military woken up to what really goes on, and that's good, because we do have a few veterans, left-wing veterans, who have done their whole military service and really got woken up to it, like Nico House, Kit Cabello. Those are a couple examples of Marcus Cage. Those are examples of people who have that experience and got woken up to what really went on. And that's why it's kind of complicated, but I'm not afraid to be critical of the purpose of what they do. And that just because you served your time in that, we just know that you weren't really there following the mission of the propaganda of what the corporate media says. So now that I finally got through that, I worked in a few other small tidbits into that. What would y'all like me to cover next? So I'll be waiting a couple moments for that. And while I do, please a quick reminder to click the like button. And if you're new, please click subscribe. And if you have anywhere to share the link to this live stream, please do so. So as I wait for a bit more of that, another topic for me to cover next, I'm doing this all on the fly here. So I didn't set things up like I normally try to do for a show where I get like 3 to 4 segments in. I really only was ready to do Brittney Griner off the bat, so please give me some suggestions to what y'all would like next. Kelly, WCSN, anyone else? Yipper lurking in the background. As I think I'm just going to do a quick YouTube check while I wait for my next suggestion. In case I do have to choose something myself. I know that there's some new things. Oh, yes. We can do that next. Let me get a quick little Twitter search going on Kristen Cinema. So let's get started with the Kristen Cinema request from Kelly. Okay, let me scroll down to a good tweet. Let me find... yeah, let's go to her Twitter first before I... It's been flooded with a lot of, like... Oh. Need to get some better results on that, but I'll jump right back over shortly. As for what happened yesterday was Kristen Cinema switched over to being independent. So now I'm ready to share. Oh, let's for some reason this old Jason Johnson tweet is gaining steam. Let's see what he says real quick.
Mansion at least occasionally. First off, it's the most ridiculously expensive Senate campaign in American history.
Right.
It's an indicator of how important this race is to both sides. But I think the most important thing to recognize is this.
a 50-50 Senate, we've seen some of the challenges that Democrats and Joe Biden has in passing legislation. A 51-49 Senate is completely different. We may never have to hear the name Kristen Sinema again because Joe Manchin at least occasionally works on things. It is a huge, huge, huge change, a huge possibility for Democrats if they can get this extra seat, because then they can actually completely legislate, and it'll be easier for them to spend the next 2 years blaming Republicans in the House, because they'll be able to say, hey, look, we passed this in the Senate. We passed this with our most high-profile people. We negotiated with Joe Manchin. It's those crazies in the House who haven't gotten things done. So politically and policy-wise, it's important. And lastly, it's also key for judges. So that's one big reason why Georgia is super-duper important. And so many people are spending a lot of money on the ground. There's lawsuits. And frankly, right now, I don't think Herschel Walker.
You know what? I think I'm gonna veer off this cinema for a moment, because the whole, as we just saw, Raphael Warnock won the runoff election to keep his seat from Herschel Walker. And I want to go back into my old time machine and see and show you what I said when I originally heard Herschel Walker announce a run for Senate. So I'm going to go back to an old video for this. Because I felt like it'll be interesting to hear what I said at the time and see how much my predictions came true. Is pretty much what it means. As we know, Herschel Walker has become one of the most well-known figures within MAGA, and having that as a really built-in advantage, and in addition to his well-established name, and also the fact that it makes a lot of sense that he's choosing to run against the Reverend Raphael Warnock. I imagine that while I do think that Walker would have better chances just against John Ossoff. You hear that? I said last year when he first announced his Senate run in Georgia, he would have a better chance running against John Ossoff. And did his election loss against Warnock just prove what I just said right? I told you that he would not be able to do as well against Raphael Warnock, because if he had ran for the other seat, I believe he beats John Ossoff much easier than the way he had the whole. We saw two struggle buses go against each other in that Georgia Senate race. So I don't get who told him it was a good idea to run against him. I mean, he still came close, but the fact that he did and win that just shows you, especially with the whole letdown on the $2,000 checks, how much of a letdown that was. I just wanted to play that quick sentence of me saying that part more than a year ago. And you can also do face comparison of how I looked back then and now. And how much more of a like boring cookie cutter clean shaven guy I was back then. Yeah. Oh, let's get back to Simon. Since I exposed how poorly aging this whole Dr. Jason Johnson interview was. And it's also important to point out how meaningless this change to independent is. Tulsi Gabbard and Kristen Sinema are living proof that some sliver of sanity still exists on the left. Don't give up on either. Both may be awakening to how monstrously evil of their former party is. Oh, come on. Oh, wait. There we go. That's a tweet I read right there from Bob Wilkinson. Come on. We know that Kristen Sinema being an independent is now gonna essentially mean the same as Bernie Sanders being an independent. The same way that you can talk about how Bernie Sanders is a Democrat with an I instead, we can easily make the argument that soon that Kristen Sinema will just be a Republican with an I next to their name instead. Oh, Warnock's win means Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema can no longer block or hold things up, right? This is like basement level understanding of how Congress works. Doesn't matter what the splits are in favor of Democrats, that is. It just means that in the grand scheme of things, it's not that hard to block and obfuscate things when you have that close of a split in Senate. Now, when you have more like the Obama supermajority, then it becomes a bit more of a challenge, so to speak. Remember, there was an actual video about it. That I saw on her actual Twitter, but it's definitely so pointless because she's an example of how this whole reforming the political system fails. She started off as a member of the Green Party. Then she started to shift to the right and from Democrats next to independent. And if you think that rightward shift is just going to stop at independent, don't be surprised when she eventually takes that a bit further. And no, her saying if her next step is to tell us she's moved to the Libertarian Party, that would not be any better. Although, it would be interesting to see someone like Pasta talk about that. So, what's next, y'all? Oh, the Twitter. I think Kelly asked about. Oh, yes, pretty much, Kelly. Pretty much the ayes a win for Republicans. Let's see, I think you also asked for the whole Twitter files thing. That if I had came back a bit sooner, that would have been a good. I probably would have done a pretty big stream on that at the time. By the way, shout out to Dude Dissonance, who did really go in depth on the whole Twitter files thing. Honestly, more than any other channel that I've noticed. Also, someone that I saw Uncle Warren recommend. So, shout out to Uncle Warren for that recommendation. Who, by the way, Dude Dissonance was just on Extra Bula back on Monday. If you've missed that, go check that out. Like it. Help increase the watch time on his channel. A lot of us small content creators need that watch time as well. Let's see. Since Kelly did ask about the Bari Weiss thing, I don't think I'll be able to keep it quite to 2 sentences, but let's try it. And let's just go through this thread of Bari real quick. How long is this? Okay, well, I'll just read this thread along real quick, just to see if I can figure out enough to give Kelly that 2-sentence summary. A new Twitter files investigation reveals that teams of Twitter employees build blacklists, prevent disfavored tweets from trending, actively limit the visibility of entire accounts, or even trending topics all in secret without informing users. And over time, I feel like my Twitter has become more and more shadow banned. Even though I do struggle to get regular interactions on Twitter, I do think it's been made worse by like a thing like shadow ban or being pushed down the algorithm. Twitter once had a mission to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly, without barriers. Along the way, barriers were nevertheless erected. Take, for example, Stanford's Dr. J. Bhattacharya, who argued that COVID lockdowns would harm children. Twitter secretly placed him on a trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from trending. I'm pretty sure that this guy right here has done an interview on the Jimmy Dore show before. Or consider that the popular right-wing talk show host Dan Bongino, who at one point was slapped with a search blacklist. Twitter set the account of conservative activist Charlie Kirk to do not amplify. But that's I noticed that's pretty much what this Twitter files thing has essentially turned into. It's turned into a thing where we focus more, or they're focusing more on the people on the right who have suffered through the shitty algorithms of Twitter while being dead silent on anyone from the left who has been deplatformed and banned from Twitter. Let me find out. I gotta show y'all an example of this. So when are we gonna get some Twitter files findings on people who aren't on the right, like Garland Nixon? Because we know they, as Jimmy Dore says, Garland Nixon and Jackson Hinkle, a nice misspelling, regularly debunk the Ukraine war lies told by State Department and corporate media. Both got kicked off Twitter during supposed new era free speech by Elon Musk, who happens to be in bed with the military-industrial complex. And continuously, Elon Musk ignores a lot of the things more to his left to focus on, because in Elon's point of view, he's still thinking of like liberals as these communist extremists. But this Chuck Modi, friend of the show, pointed out some independent journalist who did get banned that there is no attention towards, like Chad Loader, VPS Reports, and Crime Think. But I'm trying to find the photo of the tweet that got Garland Nixon banned. Oh, also good to point out that Scott Ritter, another voice who is not being allowed back on Twitter, even under Elon Musk, Pepe Escobar, too. And Dan Cohen had a very good tweet pointing out how much garbage it was for him to pretty much point out the irony of Antony Blinken's violence is pretty much what Garland Nixon did in the tweet that got him banned. And that a bunch of NAFO troll bots are still able to work Twitter to ban the people from dissenting so much for a free speech warrior like Garland Nixon. I mean, Elon Musk. Of course, Garland Nixon is a genuine believer of free speech, as many of our small group of the left is. We're not just free speech as long as it's not in a way that disagrees with us. Okay, jump back over. Let's see. More stuff about the Bari doing more work to point out the right. Blah, 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 blah. Where's... Even though I do think it was really dumb that a lot of these shit libs were even some people who call themselves left melted down at Matt Taibbi's initial release of it. I think once Bari Weiss stepped in and started to add to the discourse, that's when things went more awry. So pretty much this is pretty pointless. Yes, so that's pretty much it, Kelly. Twitter was doing what Facebook has been doing. Social media is a cesspool of controlled ops. Very much so. Very much so, Kelly. And I gotta love this Fox News headline. Liberals fume as Elon Musk gives independent. I have never associated Bari Weiss as an independent journalist. Just because she's veered off the blue team and just lightened her shade of blue, or even become more purple, I would not ever utter the words independent journalist and Bari Weiss back to back. All right, y'all. So, I don't think Fox News knows what the word independent means. I mean, yeah, they could literally call every one of their on-air personalities independent if they so choose. So, now that I got what's next, y'all? WCSN, Yipper, before Kelly suggests something else? I think while I wait for suggestions, let's just do a quick look through YouTube and see what's been popping up in some of my subscriptions. Not all of them are related to independent left media, but let's take a quick look. James Fauntleroy, currently doing a chapter 3 reading of the Asata On biography. Do Dissonance is doing another stream on liberals versus free speech, debunking the private company defense. That's supposed to start in about 50 minutes. Let's see. Anything else stand out? Yes, I do still leave some bad channels in my subscriptions. That way, if I do feel like reacting, it's pretty easy to see. Even though I know most people are off Caleb Maupin for a while. The shitlib aggressive voice. Oh yeah. Shout out to Sabby Sab. She actually went down to cover an anti-war rally in Boston. And that goes to show you how much that a lot of these people, the so-called professional managerial progressives, bitch about. people like RBN when most of them do not leave their studio. We have people in RBN that, like Sabby, like Rome, who do want to get out in the field more and cover things. Since when has Mike Figueredo ever gone anywhere to cover any event? That guy's close to Portland. He could have been there nightly when shit was popping off. Because, just an example, I think if one of these RBN members was close to Portland, I think someone would have gone down to cover regularly that event. Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me, Kelly, to do that whole, to show the whole shitty lineup of Times Person of the Year. But my subscription scroll got me channeled in another direction for the moment, because we do remember like I saw a good 3 weeks ago that the whole Colin Radix Carter and Sabby Sabs, they got into it with Mike Figueredo on Twitter, pointing out the whole student debt thing getting shot down completely, and how just a slight bit of pushback, and Mike Figueredo calls them dipshits. See how much they melt down over people challenging them from their left? And these are people who don't want anything to do with this specter of the left. But the difference is, Sabby's actually going to cover things. Colin's gone to cover things as well. He was with Frank Analysis for the whole eviction moratorium camp out outside of the White House. Colin's also gone down to cover one of the first Roe versus Wade rallies following the Supreme Court announcement. So this is the type of hypocrisy that you get. Then you have Jordan Sheridan jump in. How fucking pathetic. You can't turn off Twitter enough to enjoy the birth of your new child? And just because someone added you doesn't mean you have to get involved in that shit. And you look at the way Jordan, for example, ever since he got under the Breaking Points conglomerate, how much he changed. Look at the way he went from, at least had the semblance of someone that covered more like grassroots type events, but look at the way his channel's changed now. It's went from talking to more people in their homes and their struggles, and now it's turned into very Trump-pilled based content. Not only that, but following, just being in complete reaction mode to establishment based media, like just going to cover like election stuff. That's what that channel's changed towards. Status quo has changed towards now. There's less of the whole going to people's homes and getting the like poverty porn that Sheridan has built a big following off of. Instead of like, but the problem is he just does the poverty porn part, but he doesn't follow it up with like pushing for like mutual aid to try to actually give those people real help. Oh, yes, another good one to touch on, Yipper. I'll get that after the Time Person of the Year. I'm just looking for the photo that had a there's like a 10-person photo of the finalists, and I want to go to that before I give a bit of coverage. Okay, now I've got it up, so I'm ready to do a quick little go over on the Time Person of the Year. Here we go, Kelly, just for you. Look at this lineup for the Time Person of the Year. You've got a think about this as a basketball roster. And we're going to leave the protesters in Iran out of this because we know what platforms like Time would be trying to do with the whole narrative there. Trying to make it you co-opt the protesters as a means for the regime change. While instead, we should just not be involved in that aspect of it and separate the whole that whole protest aspect of it. So let's go through this basketball. As I said, let's think about this as a basketball roster. Xi Jinping, the U.S. Supreme Court, Elon Musk, Liz Cheney, Vladimir Zelensky, Mackenzie Scott, Ron DeSantis, and we're also going to leave off the gun safety advocates as well from the Uvalde shooting because I don't think it's right to include them into that basketball roster thing either. So, and Janet Yellen. So if I had an X to throw over the gun safety and the protesters part, I will do that. But as we know, they've anointed Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky the superstar of that roster. I just think about a guy like him, like leading a 6-76ers type team with like 21 points a game on like 37% shooting from the field. That's the type of vibes I get from that vanilla midget Zelensky. Then you've got low stamina Elon Musk, because we know once he actually tries to play an actual sport, he doesn't look like he would last very long on a court for a while. Oh man, what's pathetic about Liz Cheney? You're giving her, she was actually one of the top 3. How pathetic is that? She got trounced, and liberals wanted to make her the Republican defection hero. And she got rejected pretty harshly in that whole Wyoming primary. Then we know Ron DeSantis is someone who is going to be a rising star, and not for good reasons, because as we can see, this is like the peak of a worst list. And if you think this is bad, as time and time goes on, this list will only continue to shoot out a new 8, 10 people who are even worse. And you have to wonder about the whole Supreme Court thing. That's got to be like a little sympathy angle, just because of the fact that they wanted to like feign up outrage at people trying to stand outside their homes and protest the decision they made. I think that's really the only reason why they're on this list, just in the same way that the Pelosi's, they still treat that with that similar type of aspect of as the U.S. Supreme Court. What am I thinking? Janet Yellen is getting on there for being an austerity hawk during some of the worst inflation we've experienced in a while. Is that why she's there? So many people making it to the top in such shitty ways. The Israeli reporters at the World Cup. Oh, yes. We gotta do that one next. Or Yipper. So give me a moment to find that video real quick. Because I do remember what. Oh man, my webcam just went out on me. So let me plug and unplug real quick. And I should be back up in a moment. I voted Hunter Biden as Times Person of the Year. Is there an actual vote, WCSN, that I wasn't aware of? I absolutely would have trolled the vote as well. Okay. We back. Okay, I just got the clip up for you, Yipper.
Okay, let's go. Okay. First question. Wait a minute. First question. Is it coming home? It's coming on. Man. Come on, party. Free Palestine. Okay, let's go.
Free Palestine! We need more people to make reporters uncomfortable. In just more ways than that. Imagine, for example, LeBron James. No, I'm not going to use him. He wouldn't be good. But just imagine an NBA player deciding to take time from a post with the media and be like, there is no Uyghur genocide in China. Think about how uncomfortable that would make so many people to hear that. But let's be real though. The facts do not back up that a genocide is actually taking place. Quality of life is improving for Uyghurs in China. Their population is growing. So those things do not indicate that a genocide is taking place. You could argue that they're not being treated as well as they could be, but you cannot actually say a genocide is really taking place when their statistical figures actually indicate otherwise. But let's play this again.
Okay. First question. Wait a minute. First question. Is it coming home? It's coming on. Man. Come on, party. Free Palestine. Okay, let's go.
Free Palestine! But yeah, I do want to see someone actually a figure in sports actually say no genocide is taking place, because we remember that during the Winter Olympics, people thought Mike Tirico was so based because he spoke out against the Uyghur genocide. And you see how quickly someone like anyone who says otherwise gets ratioed like crazy, because I remember seeing Aaron Mate do that. For example, pretty much anyone on the left who does who challenges that narrative of China, they get ratioed pretty hard on Twitter for it. And I do also think it goes to show you how too many people hear the words genocide and think that you can't challenge that factually. Then it's also like, but they also at the same time conveniently ignore it when ethnic Russians have been genocide in the Donbass for several years before Russia retaliated. What's another good example? I definitely would like to see someone speak out in favor of Julian Assange. Someone else do it with one of the State Department talking heads, with one of the biggest anti-Assange voices. I would definitely like to see that happen. How about someone, some celebrity actually saying the police should be abolished while talking to actual cops? I would like to see that those are the types of moments of saying things like that to make people uncomfortable. That's what I would like to see. Although that was a nice little clip, but our famous people here aren't doing that enough, because I think that regular people like us uh, aren't going to get those types of opportunities when it all comes down to it. And if we start to go viral, we know that these big tech companies can suppress how much it does go viral as well. So, anything else, y'all? WCSN. What you got for me? See, I'm gonna go scroll through like the trending section of Twitter for a moment while I wait and see what is going on now. Also, thanks so much for those of you who have shown support so far in the return after a few weeks away. I will eventually adjust to figure out a way to get back on the groove a bit for at least the next couple weeks. As I think that I think if I do a stream next, it'll likely be Tuesday. I think that's a good day for the next one. But let's see. It's waiting for some more suggestions. Judge dismissed charges over. Let me look into that one as I put that one up on the screen for a moment while I judge. How long ago was this? Okay. Yeah, let's talk about this for a moment. So earlier today it was announced that a judge dismisses criminal charges against ex-Michigan Governor Rick Snyder. I don't think we need to go deep into detail here. But let's see. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? You know why Rick Snyder is not getting charged for anything in the way that he fucked over the water in Flint? It's because he is a member of the big club. That's why he's not getting charged. And that's very much the answer to many of these powerful people not getting charged, is just that right there. And, this stuff may not be quite as important if, for example, the Democratic successor, Gretchen Whitmer, actually fixed the water situation there. But no, even with a Democratic governor, their situation is still very much the same. And it should also be another one of many moments, as if people have not figured out by now why there's no party that's going to save you from these problems. It's got to be done through direct action and by force to get things done, because it's a long, long cry of a system where things will actually get done through voting. Did Dems fast track that judge too? I'm pretty sure of it, WCSN, because we saw that even with the whole Roe versus Wade outrage, Biden still appointed a pro-life judge in Kentucky. So just a quick example of like how hypocritical that this whole Democratic Party is, and how they've been false saviors for an extremely long time. But is there anything that's actually substantive, except for the fact that when it comes down to it, the environmental racism that is happening in places like Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, even big cities like Chicago, bigger cities like Chicago, both parties are very, very complicit in upholding all that. So, if you're surprised by it, you haven't been paying attention for very long. See, I was on to something else for a moment. Oh, okay. I think maybe worthwhile to at least touch on the whole railroad workers thing for a bit before we end things. But I also don't want to like try to make it through an hour and 55-minute video of Ryan Grimm and Kashama Sawant. I think I'll just stick to the couple hot, juicy tweets. Hello, Gorilla 48Y. Oh. And yes, I'm reading. I was just waiting to see if you were gonna ask a question or anything. Thanks for stopping by and trolling, though. Let's see, the railroad workers got screwed. First times in decades that Congress has used power to force unions to bow down. Oh yeah, I'm about to... I think we'll just go to that little bad faith clip with... Brianna Joy Gray and Ryan Grimm real quick, just because it was a very hot, juicy clip. Let's oh yeah, again, gotta share the screen real quick.
I'm sorry, what the actual fuck are you saying? That those of us who are standing up for workers, we have the responsibility. You have the responsibility.
Yes, you have to find a worker. One worker.
They have to justify why it is that they voted to break a strike, knowing that they literally had zero to gain from it.
The workers felt they had something to gain from it. Maybe the workers don't want to be part of this fantasy play. Like the workers,
what
like actually.
What are you talking?
To get rid of the Railway Labor Act?
If socialists and progressives had voted only for a bill with paid sick leave, who in their right mind, who's on the side of the railroad workers, would be blaming them for this? This is complete nonsense.
The rank and file organizers inside BMWED They push
Brian,
this strategy.
You cannot.
And you're like, well,
cherry
there's
pick.
some conservative, and you smear them as conservative. On what basis are you smearing these workers?
I do not appreciate you obscuring what I said.
So yeah, that right there is it was actually crazy seeing that someone from the who cannot just be labeled as a grifter podcaster actually go in on Ryan Grimm like that just goes to show you how much. Oh yeah, I believe so. I don't think I've ever heard her do it in the streams that I've seen her on either, or she was so casual about it that it flew under the radar if it did. But but definitely very sad how Ryan Grimm actually defended the way that the Congress is trying to take control of the way union workers, the railroad workers, can get their negotiations done. Why no mention that railroads are basically sovereign? Look up Abe Lincoln era legislation and what rights railroads got. As usual, WCSN is bringing a lot of historical context, so to speak. And it's also interesting to point out how, when it comes down to it, progressives are are screwing over the railroad workers. They've acted as scabs by trying to force them into a deal where they get no sick days. One of the very big ask that the railroad workers had, and watered down their demands by just trying to get them to accept 7. And this is the type of shilling that Ryan Grimm is doing for politicians who are pretty much acting as their own negotiator. It's pretty pathetic that in 2022 there are people fighting for paid sick leave, and yet we just gave billions more to Ukraine. Also pathetic that Ryan Grimm defends the way that Congress refuses to give the railroad workers any of their negotiations and try to essentially use weak cherry-picking arguments as justification for why that didn't happen. I mean, Grimm did admit on RBN that he is now pretty disconnected from the current class struggle. So if there's one thing that that 30+ minute appearance that he had last Monday on RBN, they at least got that out of him. And he is one of the only professional managerial class left libs that are actually willing to engage in discourse with people to his left, which is pretty sad in itself that when you got way more than hey there, Comrade Kitty. Thanks so much for staying on the stream with me. even if you're more of the worker in the background, because I do have that tendency myself when being on other. I'm not much of an active chatter. Kelly WCSN, they could tell you that I only shoot off a message here and there, especially when I'm in the INN stream or Uncle Warren's secret show, which I do not believe. I don't believe he's scheduled one yet, but let's see. Let's go down to Extra Bua just to make sure. Yeah, so I think I'm down to the end of the show. So later tonight, don't forget to go to Uncle Warren's secret show, number 44, with Jimmy Sunderland. As of late, Warren's just been doing it on Saturday nights. He did the Friday night as well. Also, don't forget to subscribe to KRT Media so you could go to Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to do a quick check on, I know the political matrix was suspended from YouTube. So I'm not sure if they're back on yet, at least the YouTube side of things. Yes, they'll be, I just looked, and they'll be back. Let's do a quick share of their upcoming stream. So this is what the political matrix has planned for tonight's stream. Let me click the like button for him real quick. I forgot on Warren's. They're doing more stuff on the Twitter files. They're going to talk about Brittney Griner being freed. I talked about that for a while here as well. So as of right now, that's about 2 hours from now, 9:45 p.m. Eastern. So right before the secret show. And I've already shown you that Due Dissonance is coming up in less than 10 minutes. I think there will also be a Beauty and the Boomer live stream as well. So Saturday night's going to be pretty busy with streams. And oh, yeah, I just showed you that they got a stream back up now for YouTube tonight. So that's good. Because unfortunately, you still need YouTube to bring new people in. Then after you introduce them to Rockfin, you still need the Rockfin people to at least like the stream to help boost them in the YouTube algorithm. But with that being said, it was good to be back on, make a return tonight. As I said, the plan for the next stream is to be Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, as it will be more of the more normal format that I have here on the show. Thanks so much for the well wishes for my mom and Crystal. Glad to be back on and glad to see everyone that showed up in the chat today. WCSN, Ellie, Mariella, Yipper, Anthony. On Twitter as Comrade Kitty. And with that being said, don't forget to check out the fellow content creators within the community that I mentioned. and more. Take this shit off the internet and bump it outside. We're keeping it live. This is Andrew Rochford saying goodbye and good night.